Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dears. In this lecture we will be explaining what is writing skills, the background of teaching writing skills, how to teach writing skills, and the principles as well as the techniques of teaching writing skills. Let's start. What is writing? Writing can be defined by a series of contrasts. The first one, writing is both mental as well as physical activity. At the most basic level, writing is physical act of committing words or ideas to some medium, whether it is handwritten or computer writing or an email message typed into a computer. On the other hand, writing is a mental work as well, because this physical production needs ideas. So we think about new ideas, we organize those ideas, we create ideas in our minds, and then we organize those ideas in our mind, and then we put those ideas on the page. So it is physical as well as mental activity. Its purpose is both to express and to impress. Writer typically serve two masters, first themselves and the other the audience, the readers. Now writers must then choose the best form for their writing: a shopping list, notes from a meeting, a scholarly article, a novel, a poetry are only few of the choices. Each of these types of writing has different levels of complexity depending on its purpose. Writing skill is process as well as a product at the same time. The writer imagines, organizes, drafts, edits, reads and rereads. This is process of writing. Now, when he finishes with this process, the ready-made essay or letter or story or research report is the product, which is the result of this process of writing. These contrast, these different views about writing skills may seem merely like clever or convenient ways to break down the larger concept of writing skills into smaller concepts. In fact, they point to the source of many conflicts and misunderstandings about writing and the teaching of writing. Now, we should discuss background to teaching writing. Where did teaching writing skills start? And how did this teaching writing skills phenomenon develop with the passage of time? Concern with the teaching of writing goes back thousands of years. It has been taught since long. However, up until the early 20th century, writing instructions was based on somewhat rigid set of assumptions. Good writing was done from a set of rules and principles. The teacher's duty was to relate these rules, and the students then wrote in response to selected written texts, following the rules of good writing. A student's essay was graded of its grammatical accuracy and correct organization, and this was all for the teacher and the students. The idea is shown clearly in Harvard University entrance requirements of 1874. At that time, the test was to check the writing skills of a student. And how did that writing responses checked by the examiners? They used to check the grammatical accuracy and the organization of their ideas, and it was all. Then in second language teaching instruction during this time as a native instruction, the rules of writing were concerned more with correctness of form over function in the class. In class, students spent a great deal of time in copying models rather than expressing their own ideas. There was no creativity. They used to copy the great writers. They used to imitate the great writers, and they used to master the language, the grammatical structure in their writing skills. There was very little focus given to creating new ideas and writing something new. A movement for more progressive writing instruction started in 1911 when the National Council of Teachers of English (NOTE) was founded. The NCTE protested against American high school curriculum, which they felt was directed by the large universities and did not address the needs of the diverse population of high school students across US. However, it was until 1960 that broader understanding of writer and teaching of writing began to take hold in classroom. Writing instruction began to include entire process of writing, of invention, drafting, feedback, revision, and not just the product. The process and the product both were included in the curriculum or in the teaching learning process of writing skills at institutions. Second language writing instruction generally included the principles and methods followed in first language writing class. However, additional concerns surfaced in 1960. ESL instructors began to recognize that certain writing problems seems to be related to the student's first language. In 1966, Robert Kaplan introduced the idea of contrastive rhetoric. What is contrastive rhetoric? It is a comparison of different types of writing in terms of organizational patterns. Different language users used to write about the same topic, and thus it was seen how a different language user write differently the same topic. And it has been claimed that each language and each culture has a paragraph order unique to itself, and part of the learning of a particular language is the mastery of its logical system. This was what contrastive rhetoric focused. Scholars of the first language writing such as Peter Ilbo and Donald Murray called for teachers to take students' writers' needs into consideration. This methodology has been called expressivism. What is expressivism? It is to write freely. It is also called free writing. In this type of writing, the writer or the student or the learner, he writes without taking care of spelling, grammar or punctuation. Whatever comes to his mind or her mind, she writes those ideas on the paper. This writing exercise is intended to make students comfortable with the act of writing and less afraid to make errors and experiment with new ideas. So it was for generation of ideas. Although many instructors think that expressivism has added something important to writing instruction, this approach has had several critics within ESL and EFL. First of all, in some of traditional academic settings, personal writing is discouraged, or at least not required by some specific disciplines. Students from some cultures will be unfamiliar with this style of writing for school purposes or see the topics inappropriate in their academic environment. However, this quick writing and free writing was common in many EFL-ESL contexts. After the free writing and quick writing, in 1970, cognitive psychology and cognitive science and sociology of languages affected teaching writing skills. The psychological process of composing were seen as a providing important insight into how students write and learn. In cognitivism, critical thinking and problem solving are of great importance. In writing class, students define problems, investigate them thoroughly, and then after presenting their arguments come to a logical conclusion. The cognitive approach in ESL-EFL classrooms is also evident in aspect of a process approach that encourages brainstorming, drafting, and conferencing among students and with the structures. And this usually happens these days as well. In EFL-ESL classrooms, the teachers, they either focus on free writing, expressivism, or sometimes they focus on the process, sometimes they focus on the product, sometimes they focus on cognitive, these critical thinking processes, problem solution writing, and these days this research writing and report writing is a part of cognitivism, in which the student used to argue a problem and to solve it with the help of their arguments. These trends continued in 1980s and 90s when ESL settings concerned for diversity, bilingualism and multilingualism and political issues informed the teaching of writing. Writers were seen as belonging to discourse communities and in what is called social constructionism. Now, in social constructionism, it was somewhat different from cognitivism. Social constructionism is somewhat different from cognitivism. In this view, the language and form of writing arises from the target community. For native speakers in formal educational setting, this often means direct instructions in academic discourse, which in turn integrates them into academic community. For second language learning, it was a double burden because first, They need to learn the language in order to be included in the language community, and then they need to learn the writing skills in order to enter into academic community. Okay, this was what social constructionist view about teaching writing skill was. A concrete way in which these concerns took shape was in the formation of writing across the curriculum, WAC, writing across the curriculum programs. In these programs, students were taught explicitly how to write in different disciplines. Understanding that to write an essay for literature class is different from writing in any other discipline or writing in any other subject like biology, like history and sociology. Work appeared in second language learning in the form of adjunct programs. In these programs, students took content courses such as psychology or political science and also attended adjunct courses in which the specific writing and language issues related to the content course were addressed. More recently, Larson Freeman 2000 encourages teachers to adopt some form of principled eclecticism. Principal eclecticism encourages instructors to consider carefully the different trends and ideas that have occurred historically and to choose those the most closely fit the needs of a particular classroom or individual students. In fact, in the writing curriculum, many instructors have done just that for many years. Now, how to teach writing skills? We should know the principles of teaching writing skills. The first principle is understand your students' reasons for writing. The greatest dissatisfaction with writing instructions comes when the teacher's goals do not match the student goals. It is very important for the teacher to know the goals for teaching writing. They should know whether the course they are teaching, how much writing skills are involved in that course. They should also know what type of writing specifically is needed for a particular course and what type of writing the student wants to learn. This is not to say that your course should only be in service to other courses. However, if your curriculum includes a lot of personal writing and the students' other courses do not, what is your justification for including this kind of writing? What benefits do you think it has? How do the skills learned in personal writing can be applied in other writing styles? Answering these questions are very important for the teachers before teaching writing skills to a particular students admitted in a particular course. The second, provide many opportunities for students to write. Now, this is very important. Writing improves only and only with practice. Evaluate your lesson plans and think how much time have you given for writing practice. Since writing is a physical activity and like other physical activities, it is necessary for this physical activity to give practice to your students, and a lot of practice is needed for improving writing skills. One thing should be kept in mind for teachers in this process, that in practice writing the teacher needs to avoid checking or evaluating practice writing, because this will minimize the duration allocated for the writing activities and practices. And if it is necessary on specific times, the teacher should check the ability of the students, how much they have improved through these activities of writing skills. The third principle is giving feedback. Make feedback helpful and meaningful. Whenever students see feedback on their writing, they do not always welcome it. And on the other hand, they need this feedback on their writing skills, because without this feedback, they think that they cannot improve their writing. If you are, as a teacher, are writing comments on your students' paper or essays, make sure they understand the vocabulary and symbol you are using. One thing. Second, be cautious about the tone of your comments. Be very polite in your comments. Third, your comments must be understandable by them. If you write just unclear, the student will be unable to know what is unclear. You should be specific while commenting on students' writing documents. Finally, feedback should not entail correcting a student writing. In order to foster independent writers, you can provide summary comments that instruct student to look for problems and correct them on their own. So instead of adding is to a verb in the document written by a student, a comment at the end should be included, which should say that there are several verbs that are missing s at the end. Try to locate and correct these verbs in the next versions of this page. So this way the student will be able to find out his own mistakes because he knows what is the mistake, and he will keep remember this rule next time he is writing anything. The next principle is clarify for yourself and for your student how their writing will be evaluated. Students' writing can be checked according to a specific rubric, because most of the time the students think that evaluation of their writing is completely a subjective process. Whatever the teacher wishes, he writes. It should not be the case. There must be a clear rubric for checking or evaluating students' writing. When you evaluate your students' writing, some questions you might ask. How important is creativity or originality of ideas for you? How important is following a particular written format? How important is grammatical accuracy? How important is that the assignment include recently taught material? And how important is accuracy in spelling and punctuations? Now in most of the cases, the teachers in English, they only check your punctuations, spellings and grammar. And the students, they do not come to know whether their ideas, their creativity have been checked by the teachers or not. Okay, answering these questions are not easy. It needs a formal rubric. There are 3 general types of rubrics that are used these days. The non-weighted rubric, this type of rubric provides descriptions of writing quality by level across other writing criteria. Look at the example. Excellent for a content means description of what would be excellent content. Adequate description of adequate development of code, and inadequate description of inadequate content. You must describe these things. Organization, you must tell the student, show the student what should be the excellent organization and content, and what type of accuracy are expected from them. Then there is another rubric, weighted rubric. A weighted rubric is similar to the non-weighted one, but it breaks the writing skills into categories and subcategories. A specific point value is assigned to each category. The following example will show how specific points are given to different portions. Look, for example, organization. Clear introduction, separate paragraphs, conclusions, transition to join paragraphs, transition when needed with paragraphs. These are different portions of organization. Now each portion you can give 1 point or 1 mark to each these different categories in student writing. This is another way. Holistic rubric describes in general terms the qualities of excellent, good, fair and unsatisfactory writings or assignments. These descriptions can be tied to grade or stand on their own. The instructor then chooses the description that fits the assignment. An example of one part of holistic rubric is like this. Look at grade B assignment should be an ability to interpret and develop ideas in the writing own words, a clear organizational pattern, vocabulary that is adequate in expressing idea, generally correct use of punctuation, spellings, although with occasional errors, grammar that is usually accurate and does not interfere with the reader's understanding. This is holistic rubric. Students can help to form a rubric as well. Take class time to ask them what they value in writing. Ask them what features make writing enjoyable to read, and what features distract from the enjoyment. This kind of discussion has 2 benefits. It not only gives students a choice in the evaluation of their own work, It also provides a common vocabulary with which the entire class can discuss their writing and the writing of others. Okay, there are some classroom techniques and tasks that can be used in a practical classroom for improving writing skills. All of these techniques are part of what has been called the process approach or process writing, although as Kroll correctly points out, the process approach serves today as an umbrella term for many types of writing courses. What the term captures is the fact that writers engage in their writing tasks through a cyclical approach rather than through a single shot approach. In other words, these activities serve to encourage brainstorming, drafting, writing, feedback, reversing, editing, and in a cyclical fashion. These types of activities encourages the idea that learning to write is more than creating a final draft. Okay, invention technique, brainstorming, word mapping, and quick writing. These are different techniques. Instructors often feel a tension between providing students a topic for writing and allowing students to formula their own topics. Whichever you decide upon, students will have to come up with ideas to use in their assignment. These ideas will not come fully formed, so it is helpful to provide activities that allow them to think on their paper. In this way, they can develop their thoughts before spending time writing a more formal essay. Brainstorming. Brainstorming can be done individually or in pairs or in groups of students. In brainstorming sessions, students list all ideas related to the topic on the paper. So the students should be given plenty of time for brainstorming so that they should think about the ideas related to the topic and they should gather those ideas on a page. Word mapping is a more visual form of brainstorming. When students create word map, they begin an idea at the top or the center of the blank piece of paper, and then they think of related ideas or words and draw relationship with series of boxes and circles. It is mind mapping or word mapping. Quick writing is where students begin with a topic but then write rapidly about it. You can give students a time limit, usually 10 to 15 minutes, and instruct them not to erase or cross out text, to keep writing without stopping, and to just let the ideas and words come out without concern of spelling, grammar, and punctuation. This also provides opportunity to the students to invent and to generate ideas and to articulate ideas on the paper. Now, writing, drafting, feedback, and revising. After students have developed their topics and ideas, it is time for them to write their first draft. Ample time should be given for the first draft, and the students should be reminded that at this point they need to focus on the development of ideas, not on the grammar and punctuation, etc. After the first draft is handed, the instructor can make comments. It can be a teacher correction process, it can be a peer correction process. The teacher can also ask the student to check each other assignment or each other ideas on the paper. At this moment, the teacher should not check the grammar and spelling, or the peers should not check the grammar and spelling. The focus should be given on the ideas and organization of ideas. Now, if you have given it to the students, you must teach them how can they check the writing of their fellow student or class fellow. These are different questions. You can give these questions to them and then they can check the assignments according to these questions. What is the other main idea? We state it here. Does the writer support the idea with evidence? What is the evidence? What evidence is missing? What question do you have about this writing? In the conclusion, is the conclusion effective? How would you improve it? Do you notice any grammar or word choice error? Underline them. Give this feedback to your partner and then discuss your answers. Now this is the example of the feedback from the students. They then begin the process of revising their papers. Note that students often mistake the idea of revision with correcting mistakes, as you should spend time talking about the process of reorganization, developing ideas, and so forth is separate from editing for grammar and spelling. Proofreading and editing before the final product is turned in for evaluation. Students should, of course, read for mistakes in spellings, grammar, punctuation, and so forth. Students can help each other to proofread and edit, although the instructor should keep his/her involvement to a minimum in developing independent writers. It is important that students learn to proofread and edit on their own as much as possible. Students are often overwhelmed by the large amount of teachers writing on their papers and feel paralyzed by what looks like an immense number of errors. Although these techniques are presented in linear fashions, as mentioned in the introduction to this section, any of these steps can and should be performed or reperformed at any stage in the writing process or in the teaching writing process. For example, if a student is not well developed, doing another round for quick writing or brainstorming may help to further flesh out his/her ideas. And while spelling and punctuation may not be a prime concern early in the process, student should make correction at any time they notice them and not wait until the last step. Thank you for watching this lecture. I hope you have understood.